I speak 7 languages, said the cleaning lady's son.
The American CEO laughed, but was instantly chilled. Sarah Davis would never have imagined that her 12-year-old
son would enter the most important boardroom of the skyscraper where she had worked as a cleaning lady for 7 years. Liam had always been a curious child, but this Tuesday morning,
he had done something that could cost his mother her job and destroy the dreams she cultivated in silence.
It was during the multinational company's quarterly meeting that the child appeared at the door of the 32nd floor conference room. Anthony Knight, the American CEO, known for his relentless rigor in business, was explaining to the American executives why international contracts were being canceled one after the other. The 60-year-old man, dressed in his impeccable suit and carefully knotted tie over a white shirt, showing his graying hair, was speaking in English when he was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. Liam entered, carrying his worn backpack, his wrinkled red t-shirt, and his frayed sneakers that Sarah had managed to buy him at the end of the previous year. His large, determined eyes swept the room until they found the American CEO. The 5 executives present looked at each other with unease, some whispering about how this child had managed to pass security. Mr. Knight raised an eyebrow with disdain, clearly annoyed by the interruption. His voice cut through the silence of the room like a sharp blade. What is the meaning of this? How did this child get in here? Liam showed no intimidation in the face of the imposing presence of the businessman.
With a courage that seemed disproportionate for his age,
he addressed the CEO directly and, to everyone's surprise, began to speak in fluent Arabic. Mr. Knight, please excuse me for interrupting your meeting, but I must speak to you about a very important matter that could save your company's contracts. The silence that followed was deafening. Anthony Knight felt as if the floor had disappeared from under his feet. After 3 decades spent in New York, it was rare for him to hear someone speak Arabic, his mother tongue, with such perfection, and especially not from an American child dressed in simple clothes. Who are you? He asked in Arabic, testing the child. My name is Liam Davis. My mother is Sarah. She works here, cleaning the offices at dawn. The child replied, maintaining the Arabic with impeccable pronunciation.
I speak 7 languages, and I can solve the problem that is making clients cancel contracts.
Anthony let out a sarcastic laugh, shaking his head in disbelief. The situation seemed too absurd to be real. A poor child, the son of the cleaning lady, claiming to speak 7 languages and promising to solve problems his best executives couldn't solve. This is ridiculous. Security! He shouted in English, gesturing to have the child removed. But Liam was not intimidated. Before anyone could move, he continued speaking, this time switching to perfect Mandarin. The problem is not in the prices or the quality of the services. The problem is in the communication. You lost the contract with the Chinese company because the translator made a serious mistake in the proposal. Anthony was chilled. The Chinese contract had been canceled the previous week, and the details of that negotiation were confidential. Only he and 3 senior executives knew the specific reasons for the cancellation. Continue, he said in Mandarin, testing the child's knowledge again. The Chinese company interpreted the word used in the proposal as subordination instead of an equal partnership. In Chinese culture, this is offensive for a company of that size. They felt disrespected, Liam explained, still in fluent Mandarin. The American CEO felt a shiver run down his spine. The child was right. Completely right. But how could he know such specific details of a top-secret negotiation? Dr. Peter Monroe, the director of international operations, cleared his throat uneasily. Anthony, perhaps we should call security. This is clearly some sort of information leak. Liam looked directly at Dr. Peter and switched to perfect English. There was no leak, doctor. I heard the conversations when my mother was cleaning this office last week. You were talking on the phone with the London office about how to recover the British contract which had also been cancelled. The base problem was similar but involved a question of cultural protocol. Peter paled. That conversation had actually taken place, and he thought he was alone in the office. Anthony Knight slowly stood up from his chair, his eyes fixed on the child. Decades of business experience had taught him to recognize true talent when he saw it. But this went beyond anything he had ever seen. Explain the British problem, he ordered. The British company cancelled because you sent the contract without the proper formal address. In the UK, it is essential to use formal titles like managing director instead of simply using first names right away when addressing the head of a company of that size. They considered it a lack of respect and professionalism, Liam replied flawlessly, without hesitation. The room remained in complete silence. Anthony Knight felt as if he were facing a phenomenon that defied his understanding of reality. How could a 12-year-old child, the son of a cleaner, have such specific knowledge of international cultural nuances? It was at that moment that Sarah Davis appeared at the door of the conference room. Her hands were shaking as she held her mop, and her face was pale with terror. She had spent the last 20 minutes desperately looking for Liam, fearing the worst when she discovered he wasn't at school. "Liam, what are you doing here?" she cried out, running toward her son. "Excuse me, gentlemen. Please do not fire me. He didn't do this with bad intentions." Sarah knelt before the American CEO, her tears falling on the polished marble floor she herself had cleaned a few hours earlier. "Please, Mr. Knight, I beg you, he is just a curious child. I have worked here for 7 years. I have never caused any problems. Please don't fire me. It is the only job I have." Anthony observed the scene with mixed feelings. Sarah's humility and despair contrasted drastically with her son's unwavering confidence. It was as if two different realities coexisted in the same family. Liam knelt next to his mother, placing his small hand on her trembling shoulder. "Mom, you don't have to kneel before anyone. Mr. Knight is a fair man," he said. Then he switched to German, addressing the CEO. "Sir, your company is losing contracts because it doesn't understand cultural subtleties. In Germany, for example, you lost the contract because you sent the proposal on a Friday afternoon. In German business culture, that shows a lack of planning and seriousness." Anthony sat heavily in his chair. The child was right again. The German contract had been lost exactly for the reasons Liam described, but those details had never been discussed openly. "How did you learn all this?" Anthony asked, this time in English, his voice filled with genuine curiosity rather than irritation. Liam helped his mother stand up before answering. "I've always been curious about languages. I started studying on my own at the public library when I was 8. I watched free videos on the internet. I borrowed books. I conversed with immigrants in the neighborhood where we live. My mom worked so much that I spent a lot of time alone. So, studying became my entertainment." Sarah wiped her tears with the sleeve of her uniform shirt. "He has always been different, sir. Since he was very small, he preferred books over playing like other children. I couldn't buy him language courses, but he always found a way to learn." Dr. Peter Monroe crossed his arms, clearly annoyed by the situation. "Anthony, this is too irregular. We cannot make decisions based on the words of a child. As impressive as he may be, he could be making this all up." Liam looked at Dr. Peter with a seriousness that seemed very mature for his age. "Do you want me to prove it to you?" he asked in perfect Portuguese. "You lost the Italian contract because you didn't understand that when they said, 'Sai pensiamo,' it didn't mean they were going to think about it as a positive consideration. In Italy, that expression is a polite way of saying no. They had already decided not to accept the proposal." Dr. Peter paled again. That specific information about the Italian expression and its cultural context was something he had discovered barely 2 days ago through a specialized consultant the company had hired at a high price. Anthony Knight stood up and began pacing the room, his hands clasped behind his back. All his life experience told him he was facing something extraordinary, but his rational mind struggled to process the reality unfolding before his eyes. "Show me the 7th language," he challenged him. Liam smiled for the first time since entering the room. The problem with the Spanish company wasn't cultural, but about time, he replied in fluent Spanish. "You scheduled the video conference without considering that in Spain. They have lunch from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. The meeting was scheduled exactly at that time, which they interpreted as a lack of respect for local customs." Anthony closed his eyes for a moment. Anthony closed his eyes for a moment. feeling as if the world he knew was being rebuilt around him. The boy was right about absolutely everything. Every detail, every cultural nuance, every specific mistake that had cost the company millions. Dear listeners, if you are enjoying the story, do not hesitate to leave your like and especially to subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot, we who are just starting out. Continuing, the tension in the room reached a new level when Dr. Peter quietly suggested to Anthony that it might be better to call security to investigate the leak of this confidential information. The other executives present whispered among themselves, clearly uncomfortable with the unusual situation unfolding. Sarah squeezed her son's hand, her eyes still red from crying so much. She knew that look on the faces of powerful men well. It was the same one she saw when she passed by unnoticed cleaning the offices at dawn. To them, she and Liam were just inconvenient obstacles that needed to be pushed aside. "Liam, let's go. You have already caused too many problems," she whispered to him, trying to pull him toward the door. But Liam didn't move. His eyes remained fixed on Anthony Knight, as if he could read something in the American CEO's expression that the others couldn't perceive. "Mr. Knight," he said in perfect Russian, causing a visible startle in the businessman. "I know you also come from a modest family. I read your story in a business magazine at the library. Your father was a rug seller on the streets of Detroit, an immigrant who built everything with the strength of his own hands. You understand what it is to have talent but no opportunities." Anthony felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. The mention of his father and the rugs of Detroit touched memories he had buried for decades. Few people in the world knew those intimate details of his youth, and he certainly didn't expect to hear them from the mouth of a 12-year-old American boy. "How do you know that?" he asked in Russian, his voice heavy with contained emotion. "Because I researched the people I admire," replied Liam, maintaining his fluent Russian. "You built this empire because someone gave you an opportunity when no one believed in it. I am only asking for the same opportunity." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Sarah's panting breath, who was observing the conversation without understanding a word of what was being said, but perceiving that something profound was happening between her son and the most powerful man she had ever known. Anthony walked over to the panoramic window that offered a dazzling view of New York. His eyes scanned the buildings stretching to the horizon, each representing the dreams, ambitions, and stories of people who, like him, had struggled to build something greater than what their origins allowed. "You said you could solve our problems," he murmured, still looking out the window. "Explain how, Liam." Liam took a deep breath, sensing that the decisive moment had arrived. He let go of his mother's hand and walked up to stand next to Anthony at the window. "You try to do international business using only technical translators," he explained, his voice gaining a confidence that contrasted with his youthful appearance. "But translating isn't just about converting words from one language to another. It's about translating cultures, traditions, ways of thinking." Anthony turned to look at the boy, seeing his own reflection in Liam's determined eyes. "Continue." "Every country has its own rhythm, its own unwritten rules. The company is losing contracts because it treats all clients the same way. What works in America doesn't work in China. What works in China doesn't work in the UK, Liam explained, gesturing with his small hands to emphasize his points. Dr. Peter let out a sarcastic laugh. "Anthony, you can't take this seriously. He's just a child repeating things he overheard." Liam turned to Dr. Peter with a serious expression. "Doctor, with all due respect, you have lost contracts worth $15 million over the last 6 months precisely because of that mindset," he said in formal English. "The problem isn't that I am a child. The problem is that you don't listen when someone has something important to say." The precision of the value mentioned by Liam made everyone in the room choke. That specific number was known only to the 3 most senior executives of the company, and had been discussed in a closed-door meeting barely 2 days prior. Sarah watched the scene with a mixture of pride and terror. She had always known Liam was special, but she had never imagined her son could express himself with such eloquence and knowledge in front of such powerful men. Anthony returned to his chair, but this time he didn't sit down. He remained standing, his hands resting on the polished mahogany table. His eyes scanned every face in the room before fixing on Liam again. "You mentioned a solution. What would it be?" Liam walked over to the conference table and, with Anthony's silent permission,
pulled out a chair and climbed onto it to be at eye level with the adults.
"You need cultural consultants for every region where you do business," he began, his voice resonating in the room with surprising authority. "It's useless to have the best product in the world if you don't know how to present it in a way that is respectful to each culture."
"And where would we find these consultants?" asked Anthony, genuinely interested.
"Right here in America," Liam replied with a smile. "This country has welcomed immigrants from all over the world.
There are Chinese, Arab, Italian, German, and Japanese communities.
People who have kept their traditions and know American culture as well as the culture of their country of origin." The brilliant simplicity of the solution left everyone momentarily speechless.
Anthony had spent fortunes hiring international consultants when the solution was right under his nose.
"But that doesn't solve the immediate problem," said Dr. Peter, attempting to regain control of the situation.
"The contracts are already canceled. The clients have already lost trust." Liam got down from the chair and walked over to stand in front of Dr. Peter. "But they can be won back," he stated. "Every single one of those clients canceled because they felt culturally disrespected. If the company apologizes in the right way, in the right language, following the right cultural protocols, they will understand that it was a misunderstanding." "And would you know how to make these correct approaches?" Anthony asked, starting to see possibilities where he previously only saw problems. "I can help the company understand each culture and create the right strategies for each situation," Liam replied confidently.
"Not just the languages, but the protocols, the schedules, the forms of address,
the appropriate gifts, everything that is necessary."
Sarah finally found the courage to speak.
"With your permission, gentlemen, I know my son is smart. But you cannot seriously consider hiring a child to solve the problems of a company this size."
Anthony looked at Sarah with a soft expression she had never seen before.
"Miss Davis,
your humility is admirable, but you underestimate your son," he said gently. "In 30 years of international business, I have never seen anyone demonstrate such a precise cultural understanding.
His age doesn't matter if he can deliver results."
Dr. Peter crossed his arms, clearly upset. "Anthony, this is completely irregular. We cannot base business decisions on the words of a child, no matter how impressive he may be. What if he is pretending? And what if he can't keep his promises?"
Liam looked directly at Dr. Peter.
"You want proof?" he asked. "Let me call the Chinese company right now and get that contract back."
The challenge floated in the air like a bomb about to explode. Anthony Knight felt his heart race. If the boy actually managed to get that contract back, it would be definitive proof of his abilities.
If he failed, this whole surreal situation would end.
"Are you sure about what you are proposing?" Anthony asked in Arabic.
"I am," Liam replied in the same language. "But I need one condition, which is, if I manage to get the Chinese contract back, you promise that my mother will be treated with respect here in the company. I don't want her to continue being treated as just an invisible cleaning lady." Anthony felt a sting in his heart.
The boy's words echoed memories of his own youth when he was treated as invisible by the rich merchants of Detroit,
while he helped his father sell rugs on the streets. "If you manage to get that contract back," Anthony said slowly,
"your mother will receive a promotion to the position of cleaning coordinator with a decent salary and full benefits." Sarah opened her mouth in shock, but Liam hadn't finished.
"And I want to study," he added. "You don't need to pay me as an employee, but I want access to the language courses the company offers to executives. I want to continue learning." Anthony held his hand out to Liam. "Deal, now show me what you are capable of." Liam shook the American CEO's hand with a firmness surprising for his age.
Anthony picked up his business phone and dialed the Chinese company's number, turning on the speakerphone so everyone could listen. After a few rings, a female voice answered in Mandarin.
"Wei, Shanghai International Trading." Liam took a deep breath and began to speak in perfect Mandarin. "Hello, my name is Liam Davis. I am calling on behalf of Almancer Industries of America.
I would like to speak with Director Chen regarding an important matter related to the cultural misunderstanding that caused the cancellation of our agreement.
There was a pause on the other end of the line. One moment, please.
While they waited, Anthony observed the expressions of the executives around the table.
Dr. Peter was pale, clearly nervous about the turn of events. Sarah clasped her hands tightly, praying silently that her son wouldn't fail in front of so many important people. Hello, this is Chen Wei speaking, a deep male voice said in Mandarin. Director Chen, thank you very much for taking my call, replied Liam,
maintaining the respectful tone appropriate for Chinese culture.
I am calling to express our profound acknowledgement of the grave mistake our company made in the translation of the business proposal. Mistake? Chen asked, his voice showing curiosity. Yes, sir.
We discovered that our translation used terms that suggested a relationship of subordination instead of an equal partnership.
In Chinese culture, we know that this is deeply offensive to a company of the prestige of Shanghai International Trading.
There was a long silence on the other end of the line.
Anthony held his breath, feeling as if the fate of his company was being decided in that instant. Interesting, Chen finally said. No one in your company had shown an understanding of that cultural aspect until now. Because we didn't have the right person for the communication.
Director Chen, we would like to rephrase our proposal with the due respect your company deserves. Treating you as the equal partners you always should have been.
Anthony watched in fascination as Liam navigated the conversation with a cultural sophistication his own executives had never shown. And who would this appropriate person be? Chen asked, clearly intrigued. Myself, sir. I studied Mandarin and Chinese culture because I believe that doing real business means understanding and respecting the traditions of the people we work with. You speak our language well. How old are you? Anthony felt his heart stop. If Chen found out he was talking to a 12-year-old child, all credibility would be lost. I have few years of age, but much respect for Chinese wisdom, Liam replied diplomatically. As the proverb says, age is important, but wisdom can come in any form. Chen laughed on the other end of the line. Is that true? Well, wise young man, what does your company propose to correct this misunderstanding? We would like to completely redo the proposal, this time with culturally appropriate translations and terms that reflect a true equal partnership. We would also like to send the proposal at the appropriate time according to Chinese customs, and include a fitting symbolic gift as a gesture of goodwill. What kind of gift? Anthony realized he was holding his breath. Liam was improvising in completely unknown territory. A set of books on American history translated into Mandarin, to demonstrate our desire to share our culture just as we respect yours. Interesting. And when would this new proposal be ready? In 1 week, Director Chen. Enough time to ensure that every detail is perfect and culturally appropriate. Very well, we will wait. And young man? Yes, sir. Your company did well to finally find someone who understands that real business starts with mutual respect.
Thank you very much, Director Chen. Have an excellent day.
When Liam hung up the phone, the silence in the room was absolute. Anthony Knight looked at the boy with an expression that mixed surprise, admiration, and something he hadn't felt in decades, genuine humility.
Dr. Peter was pale as a sheet, clearly struggling to process what he had just seen.
The other executives whispered among themselves,
their faces reflecting a mixture of disbelief and grudging respect. Sarah had tears in her eyes,
but this time they were tears of pride. Her son had just conversed with a Chinese executive as if he were an experienced diplomat, navigating cultural nuances she didn't even know existed. Liam, Anthony said slowly, you just did something my best executives couldn't achieve in 6 months. Now we have to make the proposal a reality, Liam replied seriously. It's no use promising if we can't keep our promises. Anthony stood up and walked back to the window, his hands trembling slightly. In 30 years of building his business empire, he had never felt so surprised and at the same time so inspired. Dr. Peter, he said without turning around, I want you to cancel all my engagements this week.
We are going to work exclusively on the Chinese proposal. Anthony, you can't be serious about working with a child? Protested Dr. Peter. Anthony turned around slowly, his expression more serious than anyone in the room had ever seen. Dr. Peter, in 6 months, you have lost $15 million in contracts for not understanding what this child just taught us in an hour. It is high time to recognize that age is not synonymous with wisdom, and wisdom is not synonymous with a university degree. The atmosphere in the room changed radically. Anthony had just taken a position no one expected, publicly defending a 12-year-old boy against his own director of operations. Liam approached his mother and took her hand. Mom, you don't have to be afraid. Mr. Knight is a man of his word. Sarah looked at the American CEO with a mixture of gratitude and worry. Sir, I don't know how to thank you, but Liam still needs to go to school. He cannot abandon his studies. Of course not, Anthony agreed. In fact, I will make sure he has the best private language tutors money can buy. Consider it a company investment. Dr. Peter couldn't hold back. Anthony, this is madness. You're talking about investing company resources in a child based on a single phone call. Anthony walked up to Dr. Peter and looked at him directly. Peter, how many millions have you cost me these past 6 months with your inability to understand international markets? That's different. I have an MBA from Harvard Business School, 20 years of experience. And this 12-year-old boy just solved in 1 hour a problem you couldn't solve in 6 months. Anthony interrupted him. It is time to admit that experience without results is just wasted time. The tension in the room reached an almost palpable level. Sarah perceived that her son had unintentionally provoked a power crisis within the company and feared this could have dangerous consequences for both of them. Mr. Knight, Sarah said timidly, perhaps it would be better to leave things as they were before. We don't want to cause problems in your company. Where is the problem, Sarah? Anthony replied kindly. The problem already existed before you entered this room. The difference is that now we have the opportunity to solve it. Liam looked around the room, perceiving the tensions his presence had created. With an impressive maturity for his age, he addressed Anthony in Arabic. Sir, perhaps it would be better if we worked in private these next few days. I don't want to create problems between you and your team. No, Anthony replied firmly in English so everyone could understand. I am not going to hide talent for the sake of bruised egos. If anyone in this company has a problem working with Liam, they can look for a job elsewhere. The ultimatum echoed in the room like a clap of thunder. Dr. Peter paled, clearly realizing that his position in the company was being publicly questioned. Anthony, we need to speak in private, Dr. Peter said through his teeth. There is nothing to say in private. Peter, Liam is going to work with us on recovering the lost contracts. And anyone who cannot accept that is free to leave the company this very day. Anthony turned to Liam and Sarah. You two, come with me. We are going to work in my private office. Leaving the boardroom, Anthony stopped at the door and looked back. Dr. Peter, I want the complete list of all the contracts lost over the last 6 months on my desk in an hour. If you want to keep your job, it is better to start collaborating instead of resisting. Anthony Knight's private office occupied the entire top floor of the building. The walls were decorated with ancient Oriental rugs, telling stories of his family. And an entire wall was covered in shelves filled with books in various languages. Sarah looked around, her eyes wide. In 7 years of cleaning this building, she had never imagined that one day she would be sitting in the most important office in the building as a guest. Please sit down, Anthony said, pointing to leather armchairs that cost more than what Sarah earned in a whole year. Liam sat down naturally, but Sarah remained standing, clearly uncomfortable. Miss Davis, please sit down. You are my guests now, not employees following protocols, Anthony said with a kind smile. It's just that, sir, I never thought I would be sitting in an armchair like this, Sarah admitted, finally sitting on the edge of the seat. Anthony poured water for both of them into crystal glasses. Sarah, may I ask what your story is? How did you and Liam get here? Sarah looked at her son, who encouraged her with a nod. Well, sir, Liam's father left me when he was 3 years old. He said he didn't want the responsibility of a family. Since then, it's just been him and me. How did you get this job here? I answered an ad in the newspaper. I needed a job that allowed me to take care of Liam during the day and work at night. The night cleaning job was perfect because he slept while I worked. Anthony nodded, understanding the difficulties Sarah had faced.
And when did you realize that Liam had this special ability with languages?
Since he was very little, he was different, said Sarah, her face lighting up when talking about her son. When he was 5, he started imitating people's accents on television. I thought it was a game, but then I realized he actually understood what he was saying.
How did he learn so many languages without having money for courses?
He spent hours at the public library, Sarah explained. When I got home from work, I often found him there,
reading language books or watching videos on the library computer.
Anthony turned to Liam. And how did you learn about international corporate culture?
I read business magazines that people left on the subway,
Liam replied, and I listened to conversations when I accompanied my mom to work. I learned that language is just the beginning. The important thing is to understand how people think.
How many languages do you really speak fluently?
7 fluently. English, Spanish, Arabic, Italian, Portuguese, Mandarin, and Russian. I understand a bit of German and Japanese, but I don't speak them well yet. Anthony nodded in admiration. In 30 years of international business, I speak 4 languages fluently. You at 12 already speak 7.
You had to build a company, Liam replied modestly.
I only had the time to study. The conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. Anthony's secretary entered with a stack of documents.
Mr. Knight, Dr. Peter sent the list of lost contracts you requested.
Thank you, Sophie.
And tell Dr. Peter that we will be working here the rest of the afternoon. When the secretary left, Anthony spread the documents on his desk.
Liam, here are all the contracts lost over the last 6 months. $15 million. Do you think you can help us understand what went wrong in each case?
Liam stood up and approached the desk.
His eyes quickly scanned the documents. May I see the original communications that were sent to each company? Anthony opened his laptop and began accessing the files. For the next hour, Liam meticulously examined every proposal, every email, every communication that had been sent to the international companies.
The problem is systemic, he finally said. Every company was treated with the same American cultural
approach without adapting to their specific traditions. Explain the details.
The Japanese company canceled because you sent the proposal during Golden Week, which is a national holiday in Japan. That shows you didn't research their cultural calendar, Liam began. Continue. The Italian company canceled because you scheduled a meeting for August when all of Italy goes on vacation.
The German one canceled because you sent very informal emails, and in Germany, business is always formal. The British one canceled due to the inappropriate address that I already explained.
Anthony watched in fascination as Liam broke down each mistake with surgical precision.
And do you think all these contracts can be recovered?
I believe so, Liam replied confidently.
Each company canceled because they felt culturally disrespected, not because they didn't like the product or the price. If we apologize in the right way and redo the proposals respecting their culture, they will understand that it was a misunderstanding.
Sarah watched the conversation with a mixture of pride and worry.
Her son was talking about recovering $15 million
as if it were something natural for a 12-year-old child.
Liam, Anthony said, do you understand the responsibility of what you are proposing to do?
If you fail, my company could suffer even greater damage.
I understand, sir, Liam replied seriously. But I also understand that if I don't try, nothing will change.
You will continue losing contracts for the same reasons. Anthony leaned back in his chair, observing the boy with growing admiration.
You remind me of myself when I was your age. The same determination, the same desire to prove that I was capable of something greater. Do you really come from a poor family? Liam asked with genuine curiosity.
Anthony smiled, his memories going back decades. My father sold rugs on the streets of Detroit.
We were so poor that sometimes we only ate one meal a day. But my father always said that education was the only thing no one could take away from us.
How did you manage to get out of that situation?
A rich merchant noticed that I spoke several languages and offered me a job as a translator. It was exactly the opportunity I needed to prove my worth.
Sarah perceived the similarities between Anthony's story and Liam's situation. Both were young with exceptional talents,
Looking for an opportunity to prove their worth.
Mr. Knight, Sarah said timidly, do you really believe my son can help your company? Sarah, in 3 decades of business, I have learned to recognize authentic talent.
Liam isn't just a smart child. He has a rare gift for understanding people and cultures. That is worth more than any university degree.
But what if it goes wrong? What if the clients don't agree to work with a child?
Then we will try a different approach, Anthony replied. But something tells me they will be as impressed by his competence as I was.
Liam looked at his mother with determination. Mom, all your life you have worked hard to give me opportunities.
Now it's my turn to work hard to give you a better life.
Sarah felt tears well up in her eyes.
My son, I don't need a better life. I just need you to be happy and safe.
But I want more than that, Mom. I want you to be proud of me.
And I want you to never have to kneel before anyone ever again.
Anthony observed the emotional exchange between mother and son,
feeling a pang in his heart as he remembered his own mother,
who had died without seeing his business success. Well, Anthony said, breaking the moving moment. If we are going to do this, we must start immediately. Liam, are you ready to work hard these next few days?
I am ready, sir. And you, Sarah, do you feel comfortable with your son working here?
Sarah looked at Liam, seeing the determination shining in his eyes.
If this is what he wants, I support him. But he must continue studying at school.
Of course, Anthony agreed. In fact, I will get him private tutors so he can study right here during breaks. The conversation was interrupted again by a knock on the door.
This time, Dr. Peter entered without waiting for permission, his expression clearly agitated.
Anthony, we need to talk urgently, he said,
casting disapproving glances at Liam and Sarah.
Say what you have to say.
Peter, we have no secrets here.
I have received calls from
3 senior executives asking for clarification on the rumors that you are
hiring a minor to do the job of an international consultant.
Anthony sighed, visibly tired of the constant resistance.
And what was your answer?
I said you were aware of the legal aspects, but they want direct confirmation from you.
Tell them Liam is a cultural consultant, not an employee. There is no legal impediment to him advising us on cultural matters. Dr. Peter hesitated at the door.
Anthony, are you sure about what you are doing?
This is causing a lot of stir in the company.
Peter, in 24 hours, Liam has already revived the interest of 2 clients we had completely lost.
What results has your team produced over the last 6 months? The question remained unanswered. Dr. Peter left the office clearly uncomfortable. Mr. Knight, Liam said, I don't want to cause trouble between you and your team.
Liam, changes always meet resistance. The important thing is that we focus on the results. If we manage to recover these contracts, all resistance will disappear.
In the afternoon, they worked on the strategy to approach the Italian company.
Liam explained that in Italy, personal relationships are fundamental for successful business.
They canceled because we scheduled a meeting in August, which is the sacred vacation month in Italy, Liam explained.
But also because our approach was very cold and commercial.
How should we approach them then?
We must start by talking about family and traditions.
In Italy, business is an extension of family relationships.
If we show a sincere interest in the history of their company, they will forgive us for the previous mistake. Anthony called the Italian company. Since it was late afternoon in New York, it would be night in Italy.
But Liam had done his research and discovered that the CEO, Giuseppe Rossini, had a habit of working late. The call was answered by a secretary who spoke English with a very pronounced Italian accent.
Pronto, Rossini Industries.
Liam spoke in perfect Italian. Posso parlar con il signor Giuseppe Rossini, per favor? Un momento, prego.
A few minutes later, a warm male voice answered. Pronto, Giuseppe Rossini? Signor Rossini, buonasera. Mi chiamo Liam Davis. Chiamo dall'America per conto di Almanzar Industries. Ah, sì, la vostra azienda. Che cosa volete? Signor Rossini, prima di tutto voglio scusarmi profondamente per l'errore culturale che abbiamo commesso. Programmare una riunione in agosto è stato molto irrispettoso verso la tradizione familiare italiana. Giuseppe laughed. Almeno qualcuno capisce che agosto è sacro per la famiglia italiana. Ma voi sapete perché agosto è cosa importante per noi. Sì, signore. Il momento in cui la famiglia si riuniscono. Quando I nonni raccontano storie ai nipoti. Quando le tradizioni vengono tramandate. Il cuore della cultura italiana. Bravissimo. Finalmente qualcuno che capisce. E voi, avete famiglia? Anthony watched Liam skillfully navigate the conversation, demonstrating a deep understanding of Italian family values. Mia madre è la persona più importante della mia vita. Ha lavorato molto duramente per darmi dell'opportunità. Bene. Un uomo che rispetta sua madre è un uomo di cui si può fidare. E cosa propone per riparare questo errore? Vorremmo rifare completamente la proposta. Questa volta mostrando come la nostra partnership può beneficiare non solo la vostra azienda ma la comunità. E la famiglia che dipendono da essi. Interessante. Quanto tempo vi serve? 2 settimane, signore. Tempo sufficient per preparare qualcosa degno di una famiglia rispettable come la vostra. D'accordo. Ma questa volta voglio vedere che avete davvero capito cosa significa fare in Italia. Certamente, signor Rossini. Grazie per la sua pazienza e comprensione. Arrivederci, e saluti a sua madre da parte mia. When Liam hung up, Anthony smiled broadly. He seemed much more receptive than the first time. Italians value personal relationships above all else. When I mentioned my mother and showed that I understood the importance of family, he started to trust me. And now? Now we need to create a proposal that shows how our partnership will strengthen the communities where your company operates. It cannot be just about profits. Anthony nodded in admiration. In one day, you have managed to open dialogue with clients we had completely lost. How did you learn to navigate these cultural nuances so well? I have always been interested in different people, Liam replied. When you really want to understand someone, you have to understand where they come from and what they value. The late afternoon brought a surprise. Sarah appeared at the door of Anthony's office with tears in her eyes. But this time they were tears of happiness. Mr. Knight, thank you so much, she said. The girls on the cleaning team treated me with so much respect today. For the first time in 7 years, I felt like an important person in this building. Sarah, you have always been important. The difference is that now people recognize it, Anthony replied kindly. How was Liam's first day? Your son revived the interest of 2 companies we had completely lost. He is working miracles. Liam ran to hug his mother. Mom, how was your new job? Different, my son. Very different. I have my own office, a team to coordinate. And people call me Ms. Davis instead of just nodding when they see me. Anthony watched the reunion between mother and son with a feeling of satisfaction he hadn't felt in years. He was witnessing the transformation of a family through opportunity and the recognition of genuine merit. Sarah, Liam, Anthony said. Would you like to have dinner with me today? I know a restaurant where we can discuss the next steps. Sarah hesitated. Sir, we don't know how to behave in fancy restaurants. Sarah, you behave by being yourselves. Authenticity is worth more than formal etiquette. During dinner, in an elegant restaurant in downtown New York, Anthony shared more details of his own journey from the streets of Detroit to becoming one of the most successful entrepreneurs in America. When I arrived in New York 30 years ago, I only spoke Arabic and basic English, Anthony recounted. I worked selling imported goods downtown. I slept in a cheap boarding house and ate once a day to save money. How did you learn English? Liam asked. The same way you learned other languages: curiosity, dedication, and necessity. I knew that to succeed in America, I had to understand not only the language but also American culture.
Did you never feel out of place?
Every day, Liam. But I learned that being different can be an advantage if you know how to use those differences to add value.
Sarah listened fascinated to Anthony's stories,
seeing parallels with her own struggle to provide better opportunities for her son.
Mr. Knight, Sarah said, may I ask why you are helping us so much? Anthony paused, carefully considering his answer.
Sarah, when I was Liam's age, a wealthy merchant gave me an opportunity that changed my life. He saw potential where others only saw a poor young man.
Now it is my turn to do the same. But what if it goes wrong? What if Liam cannot keep his promise?
We try a different approach, Anthony replied. But something tells me your son is going to surprise us all,
including himself.
Dinner continued with Liam asking detailed questions about business strategies,
while Anthony was impressed by the maturity and insight of the boy's questions.
Liam, have you ever thought about what you want to do when you grow up?
Anthony asked. I want to help people like us have better opportunities, Liam answered without hesitation.
I want to create a company that values talent regardless of where the person was born or how much money their family has.
Anthony smiled,
recognizing in him the same idealism that had motivated his own entrepreneurial path. That is a noble goal, and you have all the necessary tools to achieve it. When they returned home that night, Sarah and Liam discussed how their lives had completely changed in just 2 days.
My son, are you sure you can handle all this responsibility?
Sarah asked as she prepared a simple dinner in the small kitchen of their apartment.
I'm scared, Mom, Liam admitted, but I also know this is our chance to have a different life. If I don't try now, I might never have an opportunity like this again. I trust you, my son. I have always trusted you.
I just want you to know that no matter what happens,
I am already proud of who you are. Liam hugged his mother, feeling the weight of the responsibility but also the strength of the unconditional love that had always supported him.
Mom, we are going to make it. We are going to show everyone that people like us can also make a difference. That night, while studying documents on international business protocol that Anthony had provided him, Liam couldn't help but think about the challenges he would face in the coming days. He knew that many people in Anthony's company doubted him and that any mistake could destroy not only his own opportunities, but also harm Anthony's position and his mother's new job. But alongside the pressure, he also felt a burning determination.
He finally had the chance to use his talents for something meaningful, to transform not only his own life and his mother's, but also to prove that competence and character matter more than social background or age. Day 3. Liam arrived at Anthony's office determined to accelerate progress.
They had revived the interest of 2 clients but still had to work on the German, Italian, and British contracts.
Good morning, Liam greeted Anthony, who had been in the office since 6 a.m. Did you sleep well?
Yes, sir. I spent the night thinking about strategies for the next clients.
Excellent. Today we are going to focus on the German company.
You mentioned they value formality and punctuality.
Exactly.
In Germany, business is treated like a science, Liam explained.
Every detail must be precise, every deadline must be met exactly, and communication must be clear and direct.
How should we approach them?
Unlike the Italians who value personal relationships,
the Germans want to see technical competence and reliability. We must demonstrate that we recognize our scheduling mistake and that we have implemented systems to ensure it never happens again.
Anthony called the German company.
It was noon in New York, which meant 6 p.m. in Germany. An appropriate time to find executives still in the office, but not too late to interrupt the German routine of punctuality.
The call was answered immediately by a secretary who spoke German with mechanical precision. Muller Technologies. Guten Tag. Guten Tag, Liam replied in perfect formal German. Could I speak with Director Klaus Muller, please? It concerns an important matter regarding Almanser Industries of America. One moment, please. After a short wait, a serious male voice answered. Klaus Muller speaking. What do you want? Herr Muller, my name is Liam Davis. I am calling to apologize for the grave scheduling mistake we made in setting up the meeting. Scheduling mistake?
It was more than a scheduling mistake. It was a demonstration of a lack of professionalism.
You are absolutely right, Herr Muller. Suggesting a meeting on a Friday afternoon shows that we do not respect German working culture. Klaus Muller paused, clearly surprised by the specificity of the acknowledgement of the mistake.
So, you understand why that was problematic?
Yes, Herr Muller.
In Germany, Friday afternoon is reserved for preparing for the weekend.
Suggesting a business meeting at that time shows a lack of planning and a lack of respect for work-life balance. That is surprisingly precise.
How did you figure that out?
We studied our mistakes and recognized that successful international business requires precise cultural knowledge. We want to offer you a new presentation that respects German standards of punctuality and thoroughness.
How much time would you need?
2 weeks, Herr Muller.
Enough time to create a presentation that meets German quality standards and to guarantee that this presentation will be punctual and complete.
Absolutely, Herr Muller.
You have my word.
Fine, I expect the presentation in exactly 2 weeks. No delays will be accepted. Understood? Thank you very much for your patience, Herr Muller.
Goodbye.
When Liam hung up, Anthony shook his head in admiration.
It sounds like you managed to impress him. Germans respect precision and direct acknowledgement of mistakes. When I explained exactly why our previous approach was inadequate, he perceived that we had truly studied and understood our fault.
And now we have 2 more weeks of leeway to keep our promises. Yes, but this time we know exactly what to do.
The German proposal must be technically perfect with detailed schedules and specific guarantees.
Anthony leaned back in his chair.
Liam, you just revived the interest of the third client in 3 days.
Do you feel confident?
I am, but I am also aware that the hardest part is yet to come.
Getting them to listen to us again was only the first step.
Now we have to deliver proposals that are truly excellent.
The afternoon was spent working on the details of the 3 proposals.
Simultaneously, Anthony had put his entire team of technicians at Liam's disposal,
who coordinated the work with a maturity that impressed even the most experienced employees. Around 6 p.m., Dr. Peter appeared again at the door of the office, but this time his expression was different. Anthony, may I speak to you both? Of course, Peter. Dr. Peter sat down, looking slightly uncomfortable. Anthony, Liam, I owe you both an apology. Anthony and Liam exchanged surprised looks.
I received calls from 3 clients today asking for clarification on the rumors that we have new cultural protocols. Word has spread in the international market that we have an exceptional cultural consultant.
And so? Anthony asked.
So, 2 companies that had never done business with us called today, wanting meetings specifically to learn about our cultural consulting services.
Anthony stood up, clearly surprised. Are you serious? Completely serious. The news that we have re-established dialogue with clients we had lost has quickly spread in the international business community. Liam remained calm, but Anthony could see the satisfaction shining in his eyes. Dr. Peter, Liam said, you don't need to apologize.
Changes are always difficult to accept at first. No, Liam, I was wrong. I let prejudice about your age affect my professional judgment.
That was inappropriate of me. Anthony watched the scene with satisfaction. It had only taken 3 days for Liam's results to start changing attitudes in the company. Peter, I appreciate your honesty, Anthony said. How can we work together moving forward?
I would like to offer the full cooperation of my team to ensure the proposals are technically perfect.
Liam has the cultural experience, but we must combine that with our technical expertise. That would be excellent, Liam said.
Alone, I could not create technically detailed proposals.
We need to work together. Dr. Peter held out his hand to Liam. Partners, Liam agreed. Firmly shaking the executive's hand. Dr. Peter's change of attitude marked a turning point in the company. Over the following days, other executives who had shown initial resistance began to seek out Liam to learn more about international cultural nuances. 1 week after Liam's first day at the company, the 3 proposals were almost ready.
The Japanese proposal included a visual presentation following Japanese aesthetic protocols, with an appropriate cultural gift and language that demonstrated profound respect for the country's business traditions. The Italian proposal emphasized family and community values, showing how the partnership would benefit not only the businesses but also the local communities. It included invitations for the American executives to visit Italy to personally see the Italian company's operations. The German proposal was technically impeccable, with precise timelines, specific guarantees, and quality protocols that met the most rigorous German standards. On the Monday of the second week, they began sending out the proposals. The first was for Japan, following exactly the time and presentation protocols Liam had studied. 2 hours after sending the Japanese proposal, Anthony's phone rang. It was Hiroshi Yamamoto. "Moshi moshi, Mr. Knight," he said in English with a strong Japanese accent. "Yamamoto-san, what an honor to receive your call. We have received your proposal. It is impressive. I want to speak to the young cultural consultant who prepared this." Anthony handed the phone to Liam, who immediately switched to polite Japanese. "Yamamoto-san, arigatou gozaimasu for your time. Nani ka shitsumen ga arimasu ka?" The question Anthony feared had finally arrived. Yamamoto wanted to know if Liam was really 12 years old. "Hi, Junisai desu. Demo. Toshiyori mo bunka I no kei ga taisetsu dia hanwaimasu." Liam had replied that yes, he was 12 years old, but that respect for the culture was more important than age. There was a long silence. "Anata no koto o kiku to adorikamasu." Anthony watched Liam's face light up. "Honto desu ka, Yamamoto-san. Hi, reishu oei shimasu ka? Mochiron desu. Arigatou gozaimasu." When Liam hung up, Anthony looked at him with anxious expectation. He wants to reactivate the contract and has scheduled a meeting for next week. Anthony stood up from his chair and hugged Liam. "You did it. You recovered a $3 million contract." The news spread quickly through the company. Within hours, employees who had never spoken to Liam came to congratulate him. The change in atmosphere was palpable. Tuesday was the turn of the Italian response. Giuseppe Rossini called personally. "Luigi mio caro amico. Signor Rossini, come sta? Benissimo. Ho ricevuto la vostra proposta. E bellissima. Avid intesa romante cio che significa fare affari in Italia. Grazie signore. Abbiamo lavorato molto per rispettare le tradizioni della vostra azienda. E part sui valori familiari accommovent. Nessuna azienda straniera ha mai mostrato una tale comprensione della nostra cultura. Ne siamo onorati. Signor Rossini. Il contratto è vostro." Luigi. "I voglio che tu e il signor Knight vini in Italia con nostri ospiti per formare di persona." When Liam hung up, he was beaming. Another $3 million recovered. And they want us to visit Italy. On Wednesday, Klaus Muller called from Germany. "Herr Knight." "Ja, Herr Muller. Your presentation is excellent, precise, complete, and delivered punctually. Vielen Dank, Herr Muller. The contract is approved. We start next month." 3 contracts were covered, $9 million in 2 weeks. Liam had accomplished something Anthony's team couldn't do in 6 months. The celebration that night took place in the same restaurant where Anthony had taken Sarah and Liam on their first day. But this time the table was full. Dr. Peter was there. Along with other executives who had become admirers of Liam, Sarah watched her son being treated with respect and admiration by powerful men who, 2 weeks prior, didn't even know he existed. "Mr. Knight," Sarah said, "I don't know how to thank you for what you've done for us." "Sarah, I didn't do anything. It's your son's extraordinary talent that made the difference. But you gave him the opportunity. Without that, his talent would never have been discovered." Anthony looked at Liam, who was animatedly conversing with Dr. Peter about strategies for expanding the company's cultural consulting services. "Do you know, Sarah? I thought I was helping you, but now I realize it's you who helped me." Liam reminded me why I started this company. To create opportunities for talented people, regardless of their background. The story could have ended there with a happy ending and all conflicts resolved. But life is rarely that simple, and new challenges were just beginning. 2 weeks after Liam's first victories, Anthony received a call that would change everything again. "Anthony, this is Eric Vance from the American Business Federation," the voice on the phone said.
Eric, what a pleasure to hear from you.
"How can I help you?" "Actually, it's the other way around. I've heard about your new cultural consultant and I'm impressed by the results you're getting. Liam is truly exceptional. He is what I want to talk about. We have received proposals from 3 multinational companies that want to hire his services. They are ready to pay very high sums." Anthony felt his stomach drop. What kind of proposals? An American tech company offered $500,000 a year for him to work exclusively with them. A Swiss company offered even more. Anthony hung up the phone, his hands trembling. For 2 weeks, he had completely forgotten that Liam's talent didn't belong to him. Other companies would inevitably discover the boy and try to lure him away with offers impossible to refuse. When Liam arrived at the office that morning, Anthony was visibly worried. "Has something happened, Mr. Knight?" Anthony hesitated. How do you explain to a 12-year-old boy that his success has attracted the attention of companies willing to offer fortunes for his services? "Liam, I need to talk to you about something important. Your work here has been so exceptional that other companies want to hire you." "Other companies?" "With very high financial offers, more money than I could pay you." Liam sat down slowly in the chair. "Are you firing me?" "No, of course not, but I have to be honest with you. If other companies offer you better opportunities, I can't stop you from considering them." Anthony explained the details of the offers, observing the expressions crossing Liam's face. $500,000 a year is a lot of money," Liam said finally. "It's a fortune, Liam. It would completely change your life and your mother's life. But it would also mean leaving you, the one who gave me my first opportunity." Anthony felt a sting in his heart. "Liam, I survived before knowing you. You have to do what is best for your future. Can I think about it?" "Of course, but don't take too long. These companies want a quick answer." That evening, Liam discussed the offers with his mother. Sarah was astounded by the sums mentioned. "My son, $500,000 a year. That's more money than I would earn in 20 years. "I know, Mom, but it's not just about the money." "What do you mean?" "Mr. Knight believed in me when no one else would have. He risked his own reputation to give me an opportunity. If I leave now, I am abandoning the one who helped me when I needed it most." "But my son, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Something like this might never come up again." "Mom, what if I can create something even bigger? What if instead of working for a rich company, I can help Mr. Knight build something that helps other people like us?" Sarah looked at her son with a mix of pride and worry. "Are you sure about what you're thinking?" "I have an idea, Mom, but I need to talk to Mr. Knight about it first." The next morning, Liam entered Anthony's office with a determination the American CEO instantly recognized. It was the same determination he himself had felt decades ago, when he decided to turn down secure job offers to build his own company. "Mr. Knight, I have made my decision regarding the offers from the other companies." Anthony took a deep breath, preparing to hear that he was losing the young man who had become so important to his company and to his own personal renewal. "I'm listening. I want to decline all the offers." Anthony felt a wave of relief, but also confusion. "Liam, do you understand that you are turning down a fortune?" "I understand, but I have a different proposal." "Which is?" "I want us to create a cultural consulting division together within your company. Not just to recover lost contracts, but to help American companies do international business the right way from the start." Anthony leaned back in his chair, intrigued. "Continue." "There are hundreds of American companies losing international opportunities for the same reasons. We almost lost those contracts. If we create a service that teaches these companies to understand international cultures, we can help all of America be more globally competitive." Liam's vision was ambitious and inspiring. Anthony could see the possibilities unfolding in his mind. "And you would give up $500,000 a year to work on this project?" "It's not giving it up, Mr. Knight, it's investing. If our project works, it could be worth much more than $500,000. And more importantly, it can help hundreds of companies and thousands of families. Anthony remained silent for several minutes, processing the proposal. Liam wasn't just turning down a fortune. He was proposing to create something that could transform the international competitiveness of the entire country. Liam, you are only 12 years old. How can you think in such broad terms? Because I learned from you that age doesn't limit vision. You built all this when you were young because you thought big and weren't afraid to take risks. Anthony stood up and walked to the window, looking at the city of New York below. How many companies in this city were losing international opportunities because they didn't understand cultural differences? How many talents like Liam were wasted for lack of opportunities? If we are going to do this, Anthony said slowly, it must be done correctly with a professional structure, adequate resources, and a qualified team. Do you agree? Anthony turned to Liam with a smile. I accept, but with some conditions. Which are? First, you continue your studies. We will hire the best tutors so you can finish your formal education while developing this project. I agree. Second, your mother will be a minority partner in the new division. She has worked too hard for you to be the only one rewarded. Liam felt tears well up in his eyes. Thank you, Mr. Knight. And third, if at any point you change your mind and want to accept one of those offers, you have my blessing. I don't want you to feel trapped here by gratitude. I won't change my mind, sir. This is my choice. The news of the new cultural consulting division spread quickly in the business community. Within 2 weeks, they already had 15 companies interested in the services. Dr. Peter was chosen to head the technical aspects, while Liam coordinated the cultural matters. Sarah, who had never imagined she would one day be a company partner, cried with emotion every time she saw her name on the plaque of the new division. Knight Cultural Consulting. Founders: Anthony Knight, Liam Davis, Sarah Davis. 6 months later, the division had already helped 50 American companies establish successful international alliances. Liam had hired other young talents from modest backgrounds, creating a diverse team that understood both economic challenges and cultural nuances. What had started as an untimely interruption during a business meeting had turned into a revolution in the way American companies did business internationally. But the story wasn't over yet. The greatest test was still to come. 1 year after that first morning when Liam burst into the boardroom, a call came that would test the limits of everything they had built together. Anthony, this is Chun Wei from Shanghai International Trading, the familiar voice said on the phone. Chun, what a pleasure to hear from you. How are things? Very well, thanks to the exceptional alliance with you. Actually, I'm calling with a special proposal. I'm listening. Our Chinese consortium wants to exclusively hire Liam's services to establish operations throughout Latin America. The offer is $5 million a year, plus bonuses. Anthony felt as if the floor had disappeared from under his feet. $5 million annually was an astronomical sum, impossible to match. That is a very generous offer, Chen. And there's more. We are offering residency in Shanghai, education in the best Chinese universities, and the opportunity for Liam to build his own consulting firm with our financial backing. I will talk to him about it and call you back. When Anthony hung up, his hands were trembling again. This time, the offer was too massive to ignore. No responsible parent could advise a child to refuse an opportunity that would guarantee lifelong financial security. Liam, now 13 years old, had matured even more during his year working at the company. When Anthony explained the Chinese offer, the boy listened in silence, processing all the implications. $5 million a year. Liam repeated slowly. It's a fortune, Liam. More money than you could spend in a lifetime. And they want you to move to China with your whole family. Your mother would also have an executive position there. Liam remained silent for long minutes. Mr. Knight, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. When you were young and received your first big job offer, what made you decide to turn it down and build your own company? Anthony smiled, recognizing his own path reflected in Liam's question. I realized that I wanted to build something of my own. Something that would reflect my values and that could help other people like me. And do you regret it?
Never. Even in the hardest moments, I knew I was building something bigger than money.
Liam nodded slowly. Then I believe I already know my answer. That night, Liam had a long discussion with his mother. Sarah, who now had her own team and felt valued as never before, perfectly understood her son's decision. My son, 5 million is a lot of money, Sarah said. But I have learned that happiness doesn't just come from money. It comes from doing something meaningful. Are you not angry that I'm turning down so much money? I am proud, Sarah replied, hugging Liam. You chose to build something of your own, instead of working for others. That shows you have truly grown. The next morning, Liam entered Anthony's office with the same determination that had always characterized him. Mr. Knight, I am going to turn down the Chinese offer. Liam, are you sure? 5 million. I am sure. But I want to propose something different. What? I want to expand our company to other countries in Latin America. Instead of working for the Chinese, we can compete with them by offering better and more personalized services. Anthony looked at Liam with a mix of admiration and worry. You are proposing to compete directly with a global economic power? I propose to offer something they cannot, a true understanding of Latin American culture. We understand these markets better than any foreign company. Liam's vision was ambitious to the point of seeming impossible. But Anthony recognized the same type of visionary ambition that had pushed him to build his own company decades ago. If we are going to do this, it will require massive investment, huge risks, and years of hard work. I am ready, Mr. Knight, and if it works, we can help all of Latin America be more globally competitive. Anthony held his hand out to Liam. Partners forever, Liam replied, firmly shaking the hand that had changed his life. Dear listeners, if you are enjoying the story, do not hesitate to leave your like and especially to subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot, we who are just starting out. Continuing, 5 years passed since that morning when a 12-year-old boy burst into a conference room, changing lives forever. Liam, now 17, was sitting at a very different meeting table than the one where it all began. Knight Cultural Consulting had expanded to 8 Latin American countries, employing over 200 cultural consultants and helping thousands of companies establish successful international partnerships. Sarah, now the company's operations director, wore elegant suits and oversaw a team of 50 people. But she always retained the humility and kindness that had always characterized her. My son, Sarah said, entering the meeting room where Liam was reviewing contracts. A letter from the university has arrived. Liam, who had finished high school at 15 thanks to private tutors, had applied to several international business universities. It's from Harvard Business School, Sarah said, handing him the sealed envelope. Liam carefully opened the letter. After reading it, he looked at his mother, his eyes shining. I've been accepted with a full scholarship. Sarah hugged her son, remembering the curious boy who spent hours at the public library. And what are you going to do? I am going to accept, but only if we manage to structure the company so it functions without my daily presence. I want to continue learning, but I don't want to abandon what we have built. Anthony, who had heard the conversation from the door, entered the room. Congratulations. Liam, Harvard is an acknowledgement of how much you have grown. Thank you, Mr. Knight. But I will only go if we can ensure that the company will continue to grow. Liam, you have built something bigger than your own presence. The company will thrive because the principles you established are rooted in every employee. 3 months later, Liam was preparing to travel to Boston. The company had organized a farewell party in the same restaurant, where they had celebrated their first victory. Dr. Peter, who had become one of Liam's biggest supporters, gave a moving speech. 5 years ago, I doubted a 12-year-old child. It was the biggest professional mistake of my life. Liam taught me that competence has no age, vision has no social background, and humility is the mark of true leaders. Sarah was radiant seeing her son honored by people she now considered family. My son, she whispered to him. Your father lost the chance to know the extraordinary man you have become. Mom,
He lost the chance to know the extraordinary woman you have always been, Liam replied, kissing his mother's hand.
Anthony stood up to give the final speech of the evening. 5 years ago, a brave child changed my life and my company forever. He taught me that giving opportunities to talented people is the best investment any entrepreneur can make. But more than that, he reminded me why it is worth building something bigger than ourselves. Anthony paused, moved. Liam, you are going to Harvard, but you will always carry our gratitude and our certainty that you will conquer the whole world. Liam stood up to reply. Mr. Knight, Miss Sarah, Dr. Peter, all of you. When I entered that room 5 years ago, I was desperate to prove my worth. Today, I know my true value lies in the incredible people I have met along the way and in the lives we have managed to transform together. He looked around the room, seeing faces that represented his chosen family. I am going to Harvard not to leave you, but to learn even more about how we can help talented people all over the world. One day, I want to create a foundation that will provide opportunities to boys and girls like me who have talent but lack opportunity. The party continued late with shared stories and celebrated memories. But the most moving moment occurred when Anthony called Sarah and Liam for a private conversation. I have a proposal for you, Anthony said in the office that had become the home of the family they had chosen to be. We are listening, Sarah said. I want to make you the majority partners of the company. Liam and Sarah were in shock. Mr. Knight, that is not necessary, protested Liam. It is not necessary. It is fair. You turned a company into a family and an idea into a movement. You deserve to be the owners of what you built. Anthony took out documents he had carefully prepared. When Liam graduates from Harvard, you will have full control of the company. I will remain as a consultant, but the leadership will be yours. Sarah had tears in her eyes. Anthony, how can we thank you for everything you have done for us? By continuing to give opportunities to people like yourselves. Keeping alive the values we built together. 2 years later, Liam was finishing his studies at Harvard when he received a call that would once again test his determination. Liam, this is Charles Davenport from Davenport International Consulting, the voice on the phone said. Liam knew the company. It was one of the largest business consulting firms in the world. How can I help you, Mr. Davenport? We want to buy your company. We are offering $50 million. And you would become our global director of cultural consulting. $50 million was an impossible sum to imagine when Liam was a poor child studying at the public library. That is a very generous offer, Mr. Davenport. And there's more. We are offering to expand the services to all continents. With you heading a global team of 1,000 consultants. I will discuss it with my partners and call you back. When Liam called Sarah and Anthony, telling them about the offer, there was a long silence. My son, Sarah finally said, that is more money than we could ever dream of. Liam, this time you must accept, Anthony said. It is the opportunity to globally expand everything we have built. But working for another company, losing our independence. Sometimes, accepting help is the smartest way to grow, Anthony argued. Liam spent weeks examining the offer. The sum was tempting, and the opportunity to impact the entire world was exactly what he had always dreamed of. But something bothered him. For years, they had built a company based on values of family, opportunity, and personal growth. Could selling to a massive corporation preserve those values? The answer came during a visit to New York during his break from Harvard. Liam was walking in the building where it all started when he met a young cleaning lady cleaning the offices at dawn. Good evening, Liam greeted. Good evening, sir, the young woman replied, clearly nervous to speak to someone so well dressed. What is your name? Isabella, sir. Isabella, do you have children? I have an 8-year-old child, sir. He wants to study, but it's difficult with my salary. Liam smiled, seeing himself and Sarah a few years ago. And he likes to study? He loves it, sir. Always with books in his hands. He says he wants to be a doctor when he grows up. Isabella, tomorrow, bring your son here. I want to meet him. The next morning, Isabella nervously appeared with a child with bright eyes and simple but clean clothes. The boy introduced himself as Tommy, and when Liam began to converse with him, he discovered that the child spoke basic Spanish, which he had learned on his own watching internet videos.
Tommy, what do you want to be when you grow up?
A doctor, sir. I want to help people who don't have money for healthcare. Liam saw in Tommy the same spark in his eyes that Anthony had seen in him years before.
Tommy, would you like to study in a better school?
The child's eyes lit up. I would love to, sir, but my mom can't pay for it.
What if I told you that our company has a scholarship program for the children of employees?
Isabella widened her eyes.
Sir, that would be a miracle. Liam realized in that moment that selling the company would mean losing the ability to create these personal miracles.
Large corporations have protocols, hierarchies, and bureaucracies that prevent direct human connections. That afternoon, Liam called Charles Davenport.
Mr. Davenport, thank you for the generous offer, but I will have to decline it. May I ask why? We can increase the value. It is not a question of money, sir. It is a question of purpose.
Our company is not just a business.
It is a movement to provide opportunities.
I cannot risk losing that essence.
Liam, you are turning down $50 million. I am choosing something that is worth more than money. The ability to change lives directly. 2 days later, Liam announced his decision to Sarah and Anthony.
He expected resistance but found proud approval. My son, you made the right decision, Sarah said. Money we can earn in other ways. But the opportunity to help people just as we were,
that is unique. Liam, Anthony said, you continue to surprise me. At 19, you have a wisdom that many 60-year-old entrepreneurs do not have. Liam smiled. I learned from the best teachers, he said, looking affectionately at Sarah and Anthony.
6 months after graduating from Harvard, Liam returned permanently to New York to take full leadership of the company. His first decision was to expand the scholarship program.
Tommy, the son of the cleaner Isabella, was the first beneficiary of the expanded program.
Within a few months, there were 20 more children from modest backgrounds receiving quality education funded by the company.
Liam, Dr. Peter said during a meeting, the scholarship program costs a lot of money. Perhaps we should reduce it?
Dr. Peter, Liam interrupted gently. Do you remember when you doubted me because I was a child?
How many Tommies are out there just waiting for an opportunity?
Dr. Peter lowered his head.
Shameful. You are right. Excuse me for questioning it.
No need to apologize. You just need to help me find more talented children to help. The company continued to grow but always maintained its focus on human values rather than maximum profit.
Liam implemented a unique policy. For every new international contract, the company had to identify and help at least one family in need. 5 years after graduating from Harvard, Liam was back in a boardroom. But this time, he was on the other side of the table observing a 15-year-old girl who had asked to speak with him.
Mr. Davis, the young girl said nervously.
My name is Maya, my mother works in the building's kitchen, and I speak 5 languages.
Liam smiled, recognizing his own story repeating itself.
What languages do you speak, Maya?
English, Spanish, Arabic, Portuguese, and Italian.
I am learning German.
And how did you learn them?
The internet?
The library?
By talking to tourists downtown.
Liam stood up and extended his hand to Maya.
Welcome to the team.
Maya, let's see what we can build together.
Sarah, now 50 years old, watched from the door and felt her heart fill with gratitude.
Her son hadn't just achieved personal success.
He had created a cycle of opportunities that perpetuated themselves.
Anthony, at 72, had officially retired but still visited the company regularly. That afternoon, he found Liam guiding Maya on international cultural protocols.
How do you feel seeing history repeat itself? Anthony asked. I feel grateful, Liam replied. Grateful to have learned that true success is not what you achieve for yourself, but the number of doors you open for others. And what is the next step? Liam looked out the window, seeing New York stretching to the horizon.
Expanding into Africa and Asia. There are millions of young talents on those continents who only need opportunities. It won't be easy. It never has been, Liam smiled. But when you have the right family by your side, anything is possible. That evening, Sarah, Anthony, and Liam had dinner together in the same restaurant where they had celebrated their first victory a decade prior. Do you regret anything? Anthony asked. I regret taking so many years to understand my own worth, Sarah said. But I am grateful to have raised a son who always knew the value of people. I regret having hesitated to give opportunities to people who were different, Anthony said. But I'm grateful to have met a family who taught me that difference is a strength. And you, Liam? Liam looked at Sarah and Anthony, the two people who had shaped him. I regret nothing, he said finally. Every decision, every challenge, every opportunity refused or accepted has led us here. And this is exactly where we are supposed to be. End of the story. Well, what did you think of this incredible story of overcoming obstacles and recognition? Tell us in the comments which moment touched your heart the most. Was it when Liam showed his courage in the boardroom? When Anthony recognized his own past in the child? Or when Sarah finally received the respect she always deserved? Leave a like if you were moved and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories like this one. Your opinion is very important to us.